Based on the bank threshold in the Wall Street Reform Act, FSOC uses a $50 billion threshold as an initial factor to determine if a shadow bank could cause systemic risk. The Treasury's November report suggested raising that level. If the chairman's bank deregulation bill is enacted, is it safe to say FSOC would raise its threshold fivefold and would not put any resources into investigating any shadow bank below 250, as your report said?
I think that is correct, and I think there's a general consensus from the regulatory community that the threshold should be raised. And of course, the committee could always make certain exceptions if there were significant systemic.
Well, I challenge that statement. Maybe the regulators appointed by President Trump, not the regulators that have been in office that are leaving, do not say it should be 250, but more on that later. This bill then has other consequences beyond bank deregulate. It would mean that the FSOC would be very unlikely to designate a large leverage hedge fund like long-term capital management, which when it failed had just $129 billion in assets, leverage of 25 to 1, and more than $1 trillion in derivative exposure. I think you're making the system less safe and sound with those ideas. Second question, the June Treasury report on banking dereg said if we raise the $50 billion threshold for U.S. banks, we should do the same for foreign mega banks based on their domestic assets. So if the chairman's bank deregulation bill is enacted, foreign banks with up to $250 billion in U.S. assets are going to be deregulated akin to U.S. regional banks, correct?
That is correct.
So the Treasury report specifically said if we move the $50 billion threshold up, it's the department's position we should also move the threshold up for foreign banks. The report says the $50 billion threshold for CCAR stress tests, domestic and foreign banks, should be raised too. So to be clear, the chairman's bill, with your acquiescence, will deregulate banks like Santander that has repeatedly failed its stress test, and Deutsche Bank, basically the only bank that would lend President Trump money after his repeated bankruptcies and botched deals.